The massive space station called Unity Point floated in the darkness between stars. Every year, the Galactic Council held their military exhibition here. Ships from dozens of different alien species came to show off their newest and most powerful warships. This year was special. For the first time, humans would attend. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the window of the docking bay watching the alien ships arrive. They were beautiful in ways that took her breath away. The Altarian dreadnoughts looked like giant silver arrows, their hulls smooth and perfect. Light seemed to dance across their surfaces. The Zephyrian battle cruisers were made of some kind of crystal that sparkled with inner fire. When they moved, they left trails of colored light behind them. The Vrikari ships were the strangest of all. They looked alive, like giant insects floating through space. Their hulls pulsed with veins of green and blue energy. Chen had read that these ships were actually grown, not built. The aliens fed them special nutrients to make them bigger and stronger. Captain, her first officer, Commander Rodriguez, joined her at the window. Our turn to dock. Chen nodded and walked back to the bridge of her ship, the UES Defiant. She felt a familiar mix of pride and worry as she looked around the bridge. Everything was old but well-maintained. The control panels were covered in switches and buttons instead of the smooth touchscreens other species used. Her crew of 40 was small compared to the thousands that served on alien warships. The Defiant moved slowly toward the docking bay. Chen could almost hear the gasps and whispers from the alien observers. Her ship was not pretty. It looked like a flying box with weapons stuck all over it. The hull was a patchwork of different metals. Some parts were obviously repairs, welded on with no thought for how they looked. Other parts seemed to have been added later, bolted onto the original design wherever they would fit. Ambassador Kethvar of the Hegemony Council was waiting when Chen stepped off her ship. He was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. His species had controlled most of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. They were known for their perfect military formations and beautiful ships. Captain Chen, Kethvar said, barely hiding his smile. Welcome to Unity Point. This is surely not your species' finest military vessel. Chen looked back at her ship. The Defiant sat between 2 sleek alien cruisers like an ugly duckling. She may not look like much, but she gets the job done. Other alien ambassadors had gathered around. Chen could hear them whispering in their own languages. She caught enough words to understand they were making fun of her ship. Some wondered if humans were too primitive to build real warships. Others thought the Defiant might be some kind of cargo ship that got lost. Tell me, Captain, said Ambassador Zixtel of the Crystal Worlds, how many crew members does your vessel carry? 40, Chen replied. The aliens exchanged looks. The smallest alien warship at the exhibition carried at least 500 crew members. Most had thousands. And your weapon systems? Asked another ambassador. Standard projectile weapons, missile systems, and some electronic warfare equipment. Chen said simply. More whispers. Projectile weapons were considered primitive. Most alien ships used energy beams, plasma cannons, or exotic matter weapons that could tear holes in space itself. A young officer from the Altarian delegation stepped forward. Captain, perhaps your ship would be better suited for cargo transport? The exhibition does have categories for non-military vessels. Chen smiled politely. Thank you for the suggestion, but the Defiant is registered for the combat trials. The aliens fell silent for a moment. Then several of them started laughing. The idea of this ugly human ship competing against their advanced warships was too funny to ignore. Of course, Kethvar said, still smiling. We look forward to seeing what human military doctrine looks like in practice. As the aliens walked away, still chuckling among themselves, Rodriguez moved closer to Chen. Captain, they really don't think much of us. No, they don't, Chen agreed. That might work in our favor. The next few days were filled with meetings and presentations. Each species showed off their newest military technology. The Altarians demonstrated energy shields that could stop small meteors. The Zephyrians showed weapons that could slice through solid rock like it was paper. The Vrikari revealed bioships that could heal themselves in the middle of battle. When it was humanity's turn, Chen kept her presentation simple. She showed pictures of the Defiant's interior, pointing out the weapon systems and crew quarters. She talked about human military history and tactics. The aliens listened politely, but Chen could tell they were not impressed. Your ship seems very practical, commented Admiral Thexron of the Hegemony Fleet. He was Kethvar's military commander. a veteran of dozens of galactic conflicts. But surely it lacks the advanced systems needed for modern space warfare. We prefer to keep things simple, Chen replied. Complex systems can fail at the worst possible time. Simple systems are often inferior systems, Thexron said with a condescending tone. Perhaps humans will learn to appreciate more sophisticated technology as you develop. After the presentation, Chen walked through the station's main corridor. Everywhere she looked, she saw incredible alien technology. Floating platforms that moved without any visible engines, walls that showed real-time images of distant star systems, food that grew itself in minutes inside special machines. But Chen also noticed something else. All this advanced technology made the aliens depend on it completely. When one of the floating platforms broke down, the aliens had to call special technicians to fix it. When the wall displays flickered, everyone stood around helplessly until repair crews arrived. The humans were different. When something broke on the Defiant, Chen's crew fixed it themselves with whatever materials they could find. They were used to making do with less than perfect equipment. That evening, Chen had dinner with her senior officers in the Defiant's mess hall. The room was small and cramped compared to the grand dining halls on alien ships. But it felt like home. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Murphy, "I've been talking to some of the alien technicians. Their ships are amazing, but they're also incredibly complicated. It takes teams of specialists just to start their engines." "What about their weapons?" asked Rodriguez. "Powerful, but they all work the same way," Murphy replied. "Energy-based systems with computer targeting. Very accurate, very efficient. But if you can disrupt their computers or energy systems, they're in trouble." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "What about their defenses?" "Mostly energy shields," said Lieutenant Kim, the ship's tactical officer. "They're designed to stop energy weapons and exotic matter attacks. But I'm not sure how they'd handle old-fashioned kinetic impacts." "Interesting," Chen said. She looked around at her officers. These were good people, experienced and clever. They'd served together through difficult missions and always found ways to succeed with limited resources. The next morning brought news that made Chen smile. The exhibition organizers had announced the format for the combat trials. Each ship would face a series of challenges designed to test their capabilities. The trials would be held in the Nexus system, a region filled with asteroids and abandoned planets. More importantly, the trials would be observed by military experts from every major galactic power. This was humanity's chance to show what they could really do. As Chen prepared her ship for departure, she noticed alien crews making final adjustments to their vessels. Everything was precise and perfect. Their equipment gleamed under the station lights. Their crews moved in perfect synchronization. The Defiant looked shabby by comparison. But Chen had learned something important during her years in space. Pretty ships were nice to look at, but they weren't always the best at fighting. Sometimes the ugly ship that everyone underestimated was exactly where you wanted to be. "All crew report to stations," Chen announced over the ship's communication system. "We're heading to the trials." As the Defiant undocked from Unity Point, Chen could see alien ships following at a respectful distance. They wanted to watch the human ship make a fool of itself. Chen was happy to let them think that's what would happen. After all, in her experience, being underestimated was often the first step toward victory. The Nexus system was a graveyard of dead planets and floating rocks. Long ago, some ancient war had torn this place apart, leaving behind perfect conditions for military testing. The Galactic Council had been using it for combat trials for centuries. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the test course appear on her screens. Automated defense platforms floated among the asteroids like metal spiders waiting for prey. Weapon drones zipped between the rocks, their sensors searching for targets. And somewhere in the middle of it all was the finish line. The rules were simple. Each ship had to navigate through the course while the automated systems tried to stop them. Points were awarded for speed, tactics, and how much damage the ship took. The alien observers would be watching everything from a safe distance. "First up is the Altarian Dreadnought Stellar Dawn," announced the course controller. "Beginning trial run." Chen watched her screens as the massive silver ship approached the starting line. The Stellar Dawn was beautiful, like a work of art that happened to carry weapons. Its hull was perfectly smooth, designed by computers to be as efficient as possible. The Altarian ship entered the course at exactly the right speed, following what was obviously a carefully planned route. When defense platforms opened fire, Energy shields appeared around the ship like soap bubbles made of light. The plasma bolts bounced off harmlessly. The Stellar Dawn's weapons were just as impressive. Beams of pure energy reached out to destroy target drones with surgical precision. Not a single shot was wasted. The ship moved through the course like it was dancing, every turn perfectly calculated. Time, 14 minutes, 37 seconds, the controller announced. Damage minimal. Very impressive performance. The alien observers made approving sounds. This was how space combat was supposed to work. Clean, efficient, and beautiful to watch. Next came the Zephyrian battlecruiser Crystal Flame. This ship was even more spectacular than the Altarian vessel. Its crystal hull split incoming energy beams into rainbows of light, then focused that energy into devastating return fire. The ship seemed to flow through the asteroid field like liquid light. Time, 13 minutes 52 seconds, came the announcement. Damage none detected. Outstanding performance. The Verkari bioship Swarm Queen was different from the others but equally impressive. Instead of energy shields, it grew armor plating in real time to protect itself from incoming fire. Its weapons adapted to each target, changing from energy beams to projectile weapons to exotic matter disruptors as needed. Time, 14 minutes, 8 seconds. Damage moderate, but ship shows signs of self-repair. Remarkable biological adaptation. Chen watched each performance carefully, taking notes on her old-fashioned tablet. Her crew was doing the same, studying how the alien ships moved and fought. They were all impressive in their own ways, but they were also predictable. Each species had their preferred tactics and stuck to them. Now we come to the human vessel UES Defiant, the controller announced. There was a slight pause, as if he wasn't quite sure how to describe what everyone was about to see. Beginning trial run. Chen felt the familiar sensation of acceleration as the Defiant moved toward the starting line. Around the system, hundreds of alien ships watched and waited. Some were probably taking bets on how quickly the human ship would be disabled. All stations report. Ready. Rodriguez announced from his position. Engineering reports all systems green, added Chief Murphy from the engine room. Weapons and electronic. Warfare systems standing by, said Lieutenant. Kim Chen nodded. Take us in, nice and easy. The Defiant approached the course entry point at what seemed like a leisurely pace. Unlike the alien ships, it didn't follow an elegant curved path. Instead, it headed straight for the thickest part of the asteroid field. Is their navigation system malfunctioning? Chen heard one of the alien observers ask over the communication channel. She smiled. Murphy, how are those sensors working? Like a dream, Captain, came the reply from engineering. We're getting detailed scans of every system in that course. The first defense platform opened fire as the Defiant entered the field. Instead of dodging or raising shields, the human ship did something unexpected. It started talking to the platform. Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew over his control panel, sending streams of electronic signals toward the automated weapon. Got it, he announced. Defense Platform 7 is now under our control. On the observation screens, alien watchers saw something they'd never seen before. The defense platform that had been shooting at the Defiant suddenly turned and started firing at other defense platforms. What are they doing? Demanded Admiral Thexron from his observation ship. Chen heard the question through the open channel. We're improvising, she replied calmly. The Defiant continued its seemingly random path through the asteroid field. But it wasn't random at all. Every move was calculated to bring the ship's electronic warfare systems within range of more automated defenses. One by one, Kim and his team hacked into the course's control systems. Target Drone Squadron Alpha is now friendly, Kim reported, redirecting them to attack Platform Cluster 4. Defense Grid Section 12 has been compromised, added Ensign Park from the communication station. I'm uploading new targeting parameters now. What the alien observers saw was chaos. The carefully designed test course was turning on itself. Weapon platforms that should have been shooting at the human ship were instead destroying each other. Drones that were programmed to intercept intruders were now hunting down their own control systems. The Defiant sailed through the middle of it all, untouched. Its shields never came up because they didn't need to. Its weapons rarely fired because the course was doing most of the work for them. This is cheating, protested an Altarian officer over the communication channel. How is it cheating? Chen asked. We're using the equipment available to us. The same equipment you had access to. But you're not fighting the course, the alien protested. You're subverting it, yes, Chen agreed. That's the point. By the time the Defiant reached the finish line, half the test course was in ruins. Not from enemy fire, but from the automated systems attacking each other under human control. The other half had simply shut down when their control networks were overwhelmed by conflicting commands. Time: 8 minutes. 43 seconds, the controller announced, his voice filled with confusion. Damage to test ship, none. Damage to test course, extensive. Silence filled the communication channels. The alien observers didn't know what to say. This wasn't how space combat was supposed to work. Captain Chen, Admiral Thexron's voice finally came through, carefully controlled. Your tactics are unusual. Thank you, Chen replied. I'm not sure it was a compliment. What you've done here has no application to real combat situations. In actual warfare, enemy ships would have crews, not just automated systems. Chen looked around her bridge at her crew. They were all smiling now, proud of what they'd accomplished. Admiral, with respect, you're assuming that enemy ships are immune to electronic infiltration. In our experience, the more advanced a system is, the more vulnerable it becomes to someone who knows how to exploit it. Preposterous, Thexron snapped. No military force would design their ships with such obvious weaknesses. Maybe not obvious to you, Chen said quietly. But we see things differently. The communication channel went quiet again. Chen could imagine the discussions taking place on the observer ships. Some aliens would be worried about what they'd just seen. Others would be angry that humans had broken their unwritten rules about proper warfare. And a few would be trying to figure out how to counter these new tactics. Captain, Rodriguez said quietly, I think we've made an impression. Yes, Chen agreed. The question is whether it's the kind of impression we wanted to make. Over the next few hours, Chen received several requests for private meetings. Some aliens wanted to understand human technology better. Others wanted to formally complain about their tactics. A few seemed interested in forming alliances. But the most interesting request came from Admiral Thexron himself. He wanted to arrange a practical demonstration of human versus hegemony military doctrine, a mock battle between the Defiant and a small patrol squadron, just to see how these unusual human tactics would work against real opponents. Chen accepted immediately. She had expected something like this. The aliens couldn't let the trial results stand without trying to prove that their way of fighting was still superior. A direct confrontation was inevitable. 3 ships against 1, Rodriguez pointed out as they reviewed the proposed engagement rules. Are you sure about this, Captain? Chen looked out at the stars through the bridge's main viewer. Somewhere out there, hegemony crews were preparing for battle, confident that their superior numbers and technology would easily defeat one ugly human ship. They were about to learn why confidence could be dangerous. I'm sure, Chen said. Set course for the engagement zone. And Rodriguez? Yes, Captain? Make sure our special cargo is ready. I think it's time to show our new friends what human warfare really looks like. Admiral Thexron stood in the war room of his flagship, studying the tactical display with satisfaction. 3 of his best cruisers were moving into position for the mock battle with the human ship. Each vessel was twice the size of the Defiant and carried a crew of experienced warriors who had fought in dozens of real conflicts. The Crimson Talon, Steel Serpent, and Void Hunter were the pride of the hegemony patrol fleet. Their captains had requested this assignment personally, eager to put the upstart humans in their place after the embarrassing performance at the trial course. Admiral, Captain Vexistar of the Crimson Talon reported over the communication system, all ships are in position. We are ready to begin the engagement on your command. Thexron nodded with approval. This would be a proper demonstration of hegemony military superiority. No tricks or electronic warfare nonsense. Just ship against ship, crew against crew, the way space battles were meant to be fought. Remember, Thexron announced to all 3 ship captains, this is a training exercise. Disable the human vessel, but do not destroy it. We want to study their technology after we've beaten them. On the other side of the engagement zone, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching her sensors track the approaching hegemony ships. They were moving in perfect formation, just as she'd expected. These aliens fought like they did everything else, by the book, with rigid discipline and predictable tactics. Captain, Lieutenant Kim reported from his station, enemy ships are maintaining standard attack formation. Range 50,000 kilometers and closing. Any signs they've detected our special preparations? Chen asked. Negative. Their sensors are focused on us, not on the space around us. Chen smiled. The hegemony ships were looking for threats they understood. Enemy vessels, weapon platforms, things that looked like military hardware. They weren't looking for what appeared to be space junk scattered randomly throughout the engagement zone. For the past 6 hours, while the aliens were making their final preparations, the Defiant had been busy. Small maintenance pods had launched from the ship's cargo bays, each one carrying what looked like damaged equipment and scrap metal. To any observer, it would seem like the humans were dumping garbage before the battle began. But Chen's crew didn't create garbage. Everything that left the Defiant served a purpose. All stations report ready for combat, Rodriguez announced. Electronic warfare system standing by, Kim added. Engineering reports full power available. Murphy's voice came from the engine room. Weapons systems armed and ready, reported Gunnery Sergeant Williams. Chen took a deep breath. Open a channel to Admiral Thexaron. The alien's face appeared on the main screen, his forearms crossed in a gesture of confidence. Captain Chen, are you prepared to begin this demonstration? Ready when you are, Admiral. Excellent. Perhaps after this engagement, humans will better understand their place in the galactic order. Thexaron's image vanished. Begin engagement, came the announcement from the neutral observers. The 3 hegemony cruisers immediately accelerated toward the Defiant, their formation tight and professional. Energy weapons powered up along their hulls, creating an impressive display of firepower. These ships had been designed to intimidate as much as destroy. Chen watched them approach and made her first command decision. All ahead full. Set course directly for the enemy formation. Captain? Rodriguez looked surprised. That's suicide. We'll be outnumbered 3-1 at close range. Trust me, Chen said calmly. The Defiant surged forward, its mismatched engines producing maximum thrust. To the hegemony ships, it looked like the human vessel was making a desperate charge, hoping to take at least one enemy with it before being destroyed. Captain Vextar of the Crimson Talon laughed as he watched the human ship approach. They're actually going to ram us, he told his crew. How primitive. But Chen had no intention of ramming anything. As the Defiant closed the distance, it began releasing what looked like battle damage. Pieces of hull plating, broken equipment, coolant vapor. The ship seemed to be falling apart under the stress of maximum acceleration. Their ship is breaking up, reported the sensor operator aboard the Steel Serpent. Should we slow down to capture survivors? No, ordered Captain Zartek. Stay in formation. This could be a trick. He was right, but not in the way he thought. The debris streaming from the Defiant was actually a carefully planned deployment. Each piece of scrap metal was a sophisticated piece of equipment: micromines, sensor jammers, communication relays, and kinetic kill vehicles. They looked like random garbage to anyone who wasn't looking carefully. The hegemony ships flew right through the debris field without slowing down. Now, Shen ordered quietly. Lieutenant Kim activated his control panel and the engagement zone transformed. The debris revealed its true nature as a distributed weapons network came online. Micromines detonated in carefully calculated patterns, not to destroy the enemy ships, but to disrupt their formation and overwhelm their sensors. The 3 hegemony cruisers suddenly found themselves flying blind through a field of explosions and electronic interference. Their perfect formation broke apart as each captain tried to maneuver his ship to safety. What's happening? Thexaron demanded from his observation post. The debris field is active, reported his sensor operator. Multiple small explosions, massive sensor interference. We're losing contact with our ships. Through the chaos, the Defiant continued its charge. But now it wasn't alone. Hidden among the debris were dozens of small craft that had been disguised as scrap metal. They were too small to carry crews, but they didn't need to. Each one was controlled by artificial intelligence programs that had been learning human combat tactics for years. The AI ships moved with inhuman precision, coordinating their attacks in ways that would be impossible for living crews. They shared targeting data instantly, adapted to changing conditions in real time, and operated with no fear of death because they were already machines. Captain Vextar watched in horror as his ship's sensors detected new threats appearing everywhere. Small, fast-moving objects were swarming around his cruiser like angry insects. His gunners tried to target them, but they moved too quickly and worked together too well. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "they're jamming our targeting systems. I can't get a lock." "Switch to manual targeting," Vextar ordered. "I'm trying, sir, but they're infiltrating our computer networks." Our own systems are working against us. On the Steel Serpent, Captain Zartek was having similar problems. The small human craft weren't just attacking his ship physically, they were attacking it electronically. His communication systems were broadcasting music instead of tactical data. His navigation computer was showing him pictures of Earth landscapes instead of star charts. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No one fights like this." The third ship, Void Hunter, lasted the longest. Its captain, Mordak, was an old veteran who had fought against electronic warfare before. He ordered his crew to shut down all non-essential computer systems and fight using only basic controls. But the human AI ships adapted to his tactics. Since they couldn't hack his systems, they changed their approach. Kinetic impactors struck his ship's weapons, not to destroy them, but to damage their targeting mechanisms. His engines were flooded with chaff that confused their sensors. His communication arrays were coated with metallic foam that blocked all signals. Within 10 minutes of the engagement's start, all 3 hegemony cruisers were dead in space. Not destroyed, but completely disabled. Their crews were alive but helpless, watching as small human craft swarmed around their ships like carrion birds. The Defiant appeared through the sensor interference, moving slowly now that the battle was over. It looked exactly the same as before, battered, ugly, and unimpressive. But it was the only ship in the engagement zone still under power. "This is Captain Chen." Her voice came over the emergency frequencies. "Hegemony vessels, please respond." "Crimson Talon to Defiant," Captain Vextar replied, his voice tight with shock. "We are disabled but intact. Our crew is unharmed." Steel Serpent responding. "We are also disabled. How did you do this?" "Void Hunter here. Our systems are completely compromised. Request immediate assistance." Chen's voice remained calm and professional. "Help is on the way. This was a training exercise and you've all performed admirably under difficult circumstances." Admiral Thexron stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 3 of his best ships, commanded by experienced officers and crewed by trained warriors, had been defeated by a single human vessel in less than 10 minutes. It should have been impossible. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "Captain Chen is requesting to speak with you." Thexron straightened his uniform and accepted the communication. Chen's face appeared on his screen, still wearing that same calm smile she'd shown throughout their interactions. "Admiral," she said respectfully, "I hope this demonstration has been educational." "Educational," Thexron repeated slowly. "Captain Chen, what did we just witness?" "Human military doctrine," Chen replied simply. "We don't fight fair, Admiral. We fight to win. But those small craft, where did they come from? How were they controlled?" "They were always there," Chen explained, "hidden among what you thought was debris." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in the organization's 1,000-year history. Representatives from 50 different species filled the great chamber on Unity Point, their voices rising in a chaos of different languages and emotional displays. Ambassador Kethvar stood at the central podium, his 4 arms spread wide for silence. "The matter before us today concerns the human military demonstration 3 days ago. As you all know, a single human vessel defeated 3 hegemony cruisers using tactics that many consider questionable." "Questionable?" The Altarian delegate's voice was sharp with indignation. "They used artificial intelligence in combat. That has been banned by treaty since the Silicon Wars." "The humans never signed those treaties," pointed out the representative from the Crystal Worlds. "Technically, they are not bound by our restrictions." "Technically, legal is not the same as morally acceptable," countered the Verkari ambassador, her biosuit pulsing with agitated colors. "These humans fight without honor, without respect for the proper conduct of warfare." In the observation gallery, Captain Chen sat quietly with her small diplomatic team. She had been invited to observe the council session, though she was not yet permitted to speak. The aliens were debating humanity's future without human input, just as they had made decisions about the galaxy for centuries. Admiral Thexron took the floor next, his posture rigid with military discipline. "The human tactics represent a threat to galactic stability," he announced. "Their disregard for conventional warfare puts all of our species at risk. If every military force adopted such creative approaches, space combat would become chaos." "Chaos for whom?" asked the delegate from the Refugee Coalition. a group of smaller species who had suffered under hegemony expansion. Perhaps the real threat is to those who have used conventional superiority to dominate others. The debate continued for hours, with some species calling for restrictions on human military development, and others suggesting that humanity had simply revealed weaknesses in existing galactic defense strategies. Chen listened to it all, taking notes and learning about the political undercurrents that shaped galactic civilization. Finally, Kethvar called for order. Admiral Thexron has prepared a proposal to address the human situation. Admiral? Thexron activated a holographic display showing the impressive formation of the Hegemony Fifth Fleet. 27 warships arranged in perfect battle lines, including his own flagship, the massive dreadnought Dominion's Edge. The humans have proven effective against small patrol groups using surprise and unconventional tactics, Thexron began. But warfare is ultimately about superior force properly applied. I propose a final demonstration, the Fifth Fleet against this single human vessel. When their tricks fail against overwhelming numbers, we will have proven that traditional military doctrine remains supreme. The chamber erupted in new arguments. Some delegates called the proposal excessive, others labeled it necessary. A few quietly suggested that maybe provoking the humans further wasn't wise. The Fifth Fleet contains some of our most advanced warships, protested the Zephyrian representative. Surely such force is not needed against a single vessel. After what we witnessed 3 days ago, Thexron replied grimly, I believe overwhelming force is exactly what's needed. The humans must understand that their place in this galaxy depends on accepting our established order. Kethvar looked up at the observation gallery where Chen sat calmly watching the proceedings. Captain Chen, you have been invited here as a courtesy. Do you wish to respond to Admiral Thexron's proposal? Chen stood and walked to the speaker's position. The entire chamber fell silent as she looked around at the assembled aliens. These beings had controlled galactic civilization for longer than human recorded history. They had seen empires rise and fall, witnessed the birth and death of entire species, and now they were afraid of one ugly human warship. Admiral Thexron, Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. You're offering to bring 27 warships against my single vessel. That seems rather excessive for a simple demonstration. Given your unconventional methods, I believe such precautions are warranted. Thexron replied stiffly. I see. And when the Defiant defeats your fleet, what then? Will you bring 100 ships? 1,000? Chen's question caused uncomfortable stirring throughout the chamber. The Fifth Fleet will not be defeated by one ship, Thexron declared confidently. Impossible odds aside, your AI systems and electronic warfare tricks cannot overcome simple mathematics. We will coordinate our attack, maintain formation discipline, and destroy your vessel through concentrated firepower. Chen nodded thoughtfully. You're assuming we'll fight the battle on your terms using your rules. That's your first mistake. Explain. Admiral, you've spent this entire debate talking about proper warfare, conventional tactics, and established military doctrine, but you still don't understand the most basic principle of human combat strategy. Which is? Chen smiled, and somehow that expression was more intimidating than any weapon display. We don't care about your rules. We care about winning. The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation as Chen continued. You want to bring 27 ships against one? Fine. But don't expect us to line up like good little soldiers and trade shots until someone falls down. We'll fight the way humans have always fought, with every advantage we can find. Create or steal. Your threats do not concern us, Thexron declared, though his voice suggested otherwise. They're not threats, Admiral. They're promises. Chen looked around the chamber at the gathered aliens. You've all made the same mistake. You see one human ship and think you understand what you're facing. But you're not fighting the Defiant. You're fighting humanity, and humanity has been at war for our entire existence. Ambassador Kethvar stepped forward. Captain Chen, surely you cannot seriously intend to engage an entire fleet with a single vessel. This is madness, is it? Chen asked. 3 days ago you thought it was madness for us to engage 3 cruisers. How did that work out? She paused, letting that sink in before continuing. But you're right about one thing, Ambassador. This engagement won't just be about military tactics. It'll be about what kind of civilization you want to have in this galaxy. Do you want one based on cooperation and mutual respect? Or one where might makes right and the strong prey on the weak? We seek only to maintain galactic stability, Kethvar protested. Whose stability? Chen challenged. The hegemony has kept dozens of species under their thumb for centuries. The refugee coalition exists because of hegemony expansion. Half the delegates in this chamber represent species that have been conquered, absorbed, or intimidated into compliance. Is that the stability you want to preserve? The chamber fell silent as delegates looked around at each other. Chen had spoken truths that everyone knew but no one discussed openly. We came here in peace, Chen continued. We asked only to join your community as equals. You responded with mockery, condescension, and now military threats. If you want to see what human warfare really looks like, Admiral Thexron, then bring your fleet. But understand that you're not just risking ships and crews, you're risking everything. Thexron's forearms trembled with anger. Your arrogance will be your destruction, human. The Fifth Fleet has never known defeat. Neither had the Crimson Talon, Steel Serpent, or Void Hunter, Chen replied calmly. How are they doing? The vote that followed was closer than Admiral Thexron had expected, but his proposal ultimately passed. The Fifth Fleet would engage the human vessel in the Nexus system within 48 hours. The engagement would be observed by neutral parties from every major galactic power. As the council session ended, several alien delegates approached Chen privately. Some wanted to understand human technology better. Others suggested their species might be interested in closer relations with Earth, regardless of the engagement's outcome. The Refugee Coalition delegate was the most direct. Captain Chen, if your ship somehow survives the coming battle, my people would be very interested in learning more about human defensive systems. Why only if we survive? Chen asked. Because if you don't, we'll probably be looking for new homes soon. The hegemony doesn't tolerate challenges to their authority. Chen nodded grimly. She was beginning to understand that this engagement would have consequences far beyond a simple military demonstration. Win or lose, humanity's actions would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. As the Defiant prepared to depart Unity Point for the engagement zone, Chen received an unexpected visitor. Ambassador Kethavar came aboard her ship looking nervous and uncomfortable in the cramped human corridors. Captain, he said privately, I hope you understand what you're facing. The Fifth Fleet isn't just 27 ships. It's the accumulated military might of the galaxy's most powerful civilization. They have weapons that can crack planets, shields that can stop small suns. Are you certain you wish to proceed with this madness? Chen looked at him with something approaching sympathy. Ambassador, you still don't get it. You're thinking about this like it's a fair fight between equals. But it's not. It's David and Goliath, and you've forgotten how that story ends. I don't understand the reference, and don't worry, you will. The Hegemony Fifth Fleet arrived at the Nexus system like a force of nature. 27 warships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with deadly beauty. At the center of the formation was the Dominion's Edge, Admiral Thexron's flagship and the most powerful vessel in the Hegemony military. Each ship in the fleet carried a crew of thousands. Together, they represented the military might that had kept the galaxy peaceful under Hegemony rule for over a millennium. Their weapons could glass entire planets. Their shields could withstand the combined firepower of lesser fleets. Admiral Thexron stood on his flagship's bridge, studying the tactical display with satisfaction. His plan was simple and elegant. Surround the human ship, overwhelm its defenses with concentrated fire, and end this demonstration quickly. The galaxy would see that conventional military superiority still mattered more than clever tricks. Sir, his sensor officer reported, we have the human vessel on long-range scanners. The Defiant is holding position at the center of the engagement zone. Any sign of additional human ships? Negative, sir. Just the one vessel and what appears to be debris scattered throughout the system. Thexron nodded. The humans had been in the system for 2 days, supposedly preparing for the engagement. His scouts reported seeing the Defiant release various objects. Maintenance pods, cargo containers, what looked like garbage. Typical human inefficiency, probably dumping waste before the battle. Signal all ships, Thexron commanded. Form attack formation Omega-7. We will approach from multiple vectors and overwhelm their defenses before they can react. The fleet began its approach, 27 ships moving with deadly precision. Each captain knew his role. Each crew was ready to perform their duties with mechanical efficiency. This would be a textbook demonstration of how superior numbers and technology defeated unconventional tactics. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Chen watched the approaching fleet with calm interest. Her ship looked tiny on the tactical display, a single dot surrounded by enemy contacts. Any reasonable person would consider the situation hopeless. "Captain," Commander Rodriguez said quietly, "are you absolutely sure about this?" "As sure as I can be," Chen replied. "Murphy, how are our friends doing?" "All AI units report ready," Chief Engineer Murphy answered from his station. "The network is stable and responding to commands." "Electronic warfare systems?" "Standing by," Lieutenant Kim reported. "I've got targeting solutions on all enemy ships." Chen activated the ship's communication system. "Admiral Thexron, this is Captain Chen. Are you ready to begin this demonstration?" Thexron's face appeared on her screen, confident and commanding. "Captain Chen, this is your final opportunity to surrender. My fleet will show mercy to those who yield." "Thank you for the offer, Admiral, but we'll pass. Let's get this started." "Very well. Begin engagement!" The hegemony fleet opened fire simultaneously. 27 ships unleashing their weapons at the lone human vessel. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic matter projectiles filled the space around the Defiant. It should have been instantly vaporized. Instead, something impossible happened. The attacks passed harmlessly through empty space where the Defiant had been a moment before. The ship had vanished, not destroyed, but simply gone. In its place was an expanding cloud of metallic chaff and sensor interference. "Where did they go?" demanded Captain Vartok of the battlecruiser Stellar Wrath. "Scanning," replied his sensor operator. "I'm detecting massive electronic interference throughout the engagement zone. Our targeting systems are being jammed." Throughout the fleet, similar reports came in. The humans hadn't been destroyed. They had disappeared into an electronic maze that made accurate targeting impossible. And in that maze, something was hunting. The first hegemony ship to die was the destroyer Voidclaw on the fleet's outer edge. Its captain, Morketh, was scanning the interference cloud when his ship suddenly lurched sideways. Alarms filled the bridge as multiple systems went offline. "Damage report," he shouted. "Sir, we're being boarded," his security chief reported in disbelief. "Small craft have attached themselves to our hull and are cutting through." "That's impossible. We never saw them coming." But it wasn't impossible. The debris the humans had scattered throughout the system over the past 2 days had included dozens of boarding pods, each one disguised as space junk. They had drifted unnoticed through the fleet formation, guided by AI systems that could plot intercept courses with inhuman precision. The Voidclaw's crew fought bravely, but they were facing an enemy unlike anything in their experience. The boarding parties weren't trying to capture the ship or kill the crew. Instead, they targeted critical systems with surgical strikes. Power conduits were severed, computer networks were infiltrated, weapon systems were disabled with explosive charges placed precisely where they would do maximum damage. Within minutes, the Voidclaw was dead in space, its crew alive but helpless. Captain Zarfek of the cruiser Iron Fist watched in horror as the same thing happened to 2 more ships in rapid succession. "All vessels, close formation," he ordered. "Don't let them separate us." But the hegemony fleet was already separated. The electronic interference that had hidden the human ship's initial movement was expanding, dividing the alien formation into isolated groups that couldn't communicate effectively with each other. And in that isolation, the hunter struck. The Defiant reappeared suddenly, emerging from the electronic fog like a ghost made solid. But it wasn't alone. Around it swarmed dozens of small craft, each one moving with perfect coordination. To the alien observers, it looked like the human ship had spawned a cloud of deadly offspring. Admiral Thexron watched from his flagship as his carefully planned battle turned into chaos. "Focus fire on the Defiant," he ordered. "Ignore the smaller craft." But ignoring the AI ships was impossible. They attacked with inhuman precision, targeting specific systems on each enemy vessel. Instead of trying to destroy the alien ships outright, they systematically disabled them. Engines were crippled with kinetic strikes. Weapon systems were overloaded by electronic warfare attacks. Communication arrays were coated with metallic foam that blocked all signals. The battlecruiser Crimson Dawn tried to ram one of the small human craft. But the AI ship simply wasn't there when the alien vessel arrived. It had calculated the intercept course and moved away at exactly the right moment, leaving the battlecruiser to crash harmlessly into empty space. Captain Chen's voice cut through the communications chaos. "Admiral Thexron, you seem to be having some difficulties. Would you like to discuss terms?" "Never," Thexron snarled. "The Fifth Fleet does not surrender." I wasn't talking about surrender, Chen replied calmly. I was talking about survival. As if to emphasize her point, 3 more hegemony ships went dark simultaneously. The battle had been raging for less than 30 minutes, and half the fleet was already disabled. The remaining alien ships tried to regroup around the Dominion's edge, but the electronic warfare was too intense. Every time they thought they had established communication, the humans jammed their signals or fed false information into their networks. Captain Lokhtar of the heavy cruiser Death's Head found himself fighting an enemy that seemed to know his moves before he made them. Every time he tried to target a human craft, it had already moved to a new position. Every time he fired his weapons, they hit empty space where the target used to be. Sir, his tactical officer reported desperately, their AI systems are processing our movements faster than we can make them. They're predicting our actions and countering them before we complete them. The realization hit Lokhtar like a physical blow. The humans weren't just using artificial intelligence. They were using it better than anyone had thought possible. Their machines could think and react at speeds no living crew could match. Meanwhile, on the Defiance bridge, Lieutenant Kim was coordinating the AI fleet with calm efficiency. Each small craft was an extension of his will, operating in perfect synchronization with the others. It was like conducting an orchestra, if orchestras were designed to disable enemy warships. Enemy formation is breaking apart, Kim reported. 12 ships disabled, 8 more heavily damaged. The remainder are trying to retreat. Let them go, Chen ordered. We've made our point. But Admiral Thexron wasn't ready to retreat. His flagship was still operational, still dangerous. The Dominion's Edge was the most powerful vessel in the hegemony fleet, armed with weapons that could crack moons and protected by shields that had never been penetrated. All remaining ships form on the flagship, he commanded. We will show these humans what real power looks like. The surviving vessels, barely 6 ships out of the original 27, rallied around the Dominion's Edge. Together, they represented enough firepower to destroy small worlds. Surely this would be enough to defeat 1 human ship and its swarm of AI craft. Chen watched the alien ships regroup and smiled grimly. Murphy, are you ready for the finale? Aye, Captain. The big surprise is charged and ready. What Admiral Thexron didn't know was that the Defiant had one more secret. Hidden deep in the ship's hull was a weapon system that Earth's military had developed specifically for this type of engagement. They called it a cascade disruptor, and it was designed to exploit a weakness in energy shield technology that no alien species had ever